Hey folks, this is Mike Phelpson from the Microsoft Education team. We are here for the latest Remote Learning with Microsoft EDU webinar. We've been putting these on almost daily, maybe the last month. And today we've got what I like to call the prom king of remote learning right now. What does that mean? Why is Gordon Chang the prom king? Because he is the product manager who handles all the meeting stuff in Microsoft Teams. And meetings in the classroom is all the rage right now. So he was already on the show. We brought him back. I think he's only the second returning guest. So Gordon, you've been so popular that we've had you back. So we're really excited to have Gordon. And we'll just get to the latest news and updates, and then we're going to move straight into Gordon, and he's here for the entire time. So quick links to get started. The Microsoft EDU Remote Learning site, that's our main site with all the great stuff. It's always getting added and updated and improved. The Teams EDU Quick Start Guide, that is the PDF that you can download to get started, all the basics of Teams in the classroom, and that's in many, many languages now. That PDF's been localized. And then sign up for the remote learning community if you have not already. It is over 5,000 strong. We have educators from all over the world collaborating, learning from each other, supporting each other, and the Microsoft product team is in there supporting and helping every day. And really, it's a place that can hopefully answer questions that you have about remote learning. So join us. Today's updates, we've got a meeting theme. And so first off, even though I've shown it before, since we're talking about meetings today, we put out a very popular blog a couple of weeks ago talking all about the what's here now in meetings and also what's coming soon. So a whole bunch of features coming very soon, like attendance reports in meetings, hand raises coming pretty soon. We announced 3x3 video to expand the number of video screens. We talked about some IT admin settings and the ability for teachers to end meetings. All those details and sort of ballpark dates are in this blog, so definitely check it out. Alice Keeler put together a really cool YouTube playlist on Teams meetings, and it's really focused on 30 to 45 second quick bite PD. So you don't need to learn 50 things at once, just learn one thing in 30 seconds. And Alice is amazing at breaking it down and keeping it really simple. And then also we've got our Teams meetings roles page. So what is a meeting role? Well, that is who's the organizer, who's the attendee, who can mute people and remove people, who can't. There's a lot of meeting roles, and understanding those if you're an educator and how to make sure your students have the right attendee roles, all of that's documented on this support article, so check that out too. And with that, we are going to pass it over to Gordon Chang on the Teams for Education team, and what I'm going to do is stop sharing, and we're going to let Prom King take over. And Gordon, thanks for joining us again.
I'm muting myself here. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Awesome. Cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Gordon. I'm the product manager for Teams for Education. Feel free to follow me on Twitter or LinkedIn. Thank you, Mike, for that such an awesome introduction. So today we're going to talk about Teams meetings for the classroom. And okay, so this webinar, it would be for you if you're like a completely beginner and you want to learn, hey, how do you schedule a Teams meeting for your class and what should you do, before, during, or after the meeting. So we'll go through that phase step by step. If you're like already know the basics, you just want to know, hey, what are the new tips and new and upcoming features to run an effective online meeting? This is the place to go. If you're looking for like, hey, you know what, my school uses LMS like Canvas, or my students use G Suite. Can you and should you still use Teams meeting? That the answer is definitely yes. So today's agenda will, depending on kind of your level of familiarity, we'll go through the basic UIs to help you get familiarized with the Teams UI. And then we'll go through step by step, how can you run effective meetings for the classroom, including how can you keep the meeting safe, how can you moderate the chats, etc. And we'll also talk about the LMS integration. We'll also talk about how can you any other materials that can keep your students engaged, with other virtual field trips or invite external guest speakers to your virtual classroom. And then, at last, we'll go through kind of a list of, hey, what's new and upcoming, and also a recap in the format of FAQs to help you get started. Cool. Okay, so Teams UI. So, if you're familiar with Teams, this is good. So just kind of a recap. If you're not familiar with Teams, we have a lot of things to offer. So feel free to, take the full benefit of it. So Teams, when you have a class, usually you can create a class team to represent your class. And what it does is that you can have multiple channels. Each channel could be, a unit or a week, or maybe a dedicated channel for your office hours, or a dedicated channel just for fun. So you can kind of categorize the discussions there. And then within each channel, you can actually, start discussion with the class. You can share files. You can pin further content as tabs, and you can also, format your message in many different ways. And you can also start a survey there as well. And make sure that you can get used to the distributing handouts versus via class notebooks. And you can also set up assignments and review the grades if you want to use the assignment feature within Teams as well. If you haven't created your class, feel free to just click on bit.ly, set up class in Teams. We'll have a full-blown step-by-step video of that as well. Okay, so going into the meetings part, so there are multiple ways to create a meeting in Teams. You can hold classes, you can have staff meetings, or trainings as well. In here, you can actually say, hey, I want to schedule a private meeting with a specific time and date, or you want to say, hey, I just want to quickly create a meeting now, which is in our UI, it's called Meet Now. Or you can actually say, hey, I want to invite my class, so invite a channel to the meeting, so I don't need to worry about individually invite the students. So you can do all that over here. For the purpose of the online classroom, we would recommend you to use channel meetings, which will be described in the further details here. So currently, the maximum number of participants to join at the same time to a meeting is 250. If your school has way less than that, no worries. If your school has more than that, we do have another feature with slightly different functionalities. It's called live events in Teams. So you can use that to broadcast your content to more people. Okay, so this is the kind of a quick UI for the when you're in a meeting. So there are a bunch of functionalities you can use: the video, the audio, the screen, and you can start the recording. You can create live captions and so on. Two things I want to kind of call out is the chat icon over here and the people icon over here. This actually gives you direct access. You can show it on the side or hide it to have in-meeting chat happening on the side, and you can also kind of see who joined the meeting during the meeting as well. Cool. Okay, so let's get started with the online meetings 101. So to do that, there actually we'll have multiple tips and recommendations for you, and keep in mind that we put it in a way that these are the things you should do before the meeting, at the start of the meeting, during the meeting, and also after the meeting. And as you can see with those red tags, we actually kind of included new features, whether it's just released or it's coming up soon, that you can fully kind of further optimize it for your online classes. So let's dive in. Okay, so first of all, before the meeting, we definitely recommend you to use channel meetings. In order to use channel meetings, you need to create your class first. You could create it yourself, or maybe your school admin already created one for you. That's fine. So after you do that, make sure that when you are scheduling a meeting, if you're scheduling from the calendar app over here, there's a channel field, and you can select or search for the right channel for your class, and you can hit send. This way, you don't need to actually invite or put in the email address of every student, because all the students by default in this channel would get the invitation by default, and they can see it on the calendar as well. So you can also schedule a channel meeting directly from that channel. When you're composing a message, you can see this red icon of a video icon over here. So you can click there and then create a channel meeting from there. We are in the process of moving that button to the top right of your kind of entire UI, so it's more discoverable, and then you can easily access it sooner. So once you actually schedule the meeting, it would actually become a post in the channel as seen below. This is very good because then you can actually see all the back and forth conversation here, and you can have further moderation if you need it as well. Cool. So after you do that, the first thing you need to do, a must, is that you must go to the meeting options and then change a few settings. So here is, Teams is meant to be, collaborative, but in the context of online classrooms, you may want to be like, okay, I want to make sure that only me can present. I don't want students to present and mess up with whatever, settings there is in the meeting. So to prevent that, go and click on the meetings option in the description of the meeting, and then make sure that you change the following two. One is change the who can present to only me, so that all the other students will be joining as attendees by default, and I'll share what that means in the next slide. The other option you should change is to change the who can bypass the lobby to people in my organization. This is extremely useful if there are weird users who are trying to join anonymously, or you actually maybe your students don't have Teams license yet and they are joining anonymously. You want to make sure that whenever they are joining, if it's the right person and the display name that they're using is not like inappropriate in any way, so you can control that over here as well. Cool. So I talked about the presenter role and making sure that it's only me. So what that means is that all the students will be attendee by default. As you can see from that table, attendees can still, share their videos, can participate in the chat, and can even, like, if you're sharing a PowerPoint, they can, view the next slides, at their own pace. So that's totally cool. But it wouldn't allow them to share content or mute other participants or even remove participants or just, mess up with your recordings. So definitely recommend you to do that. In some cases, you may want to be like, hey, I want another co-teacher or maybe a parent or TA or a student to help you with the classroom orchestration. What we recommend you to do that is during the meeting, as you can see in this people ping or participant ping, you can click on the actual teacher name or the TA's name and then make them as a presenter so that they can help you with the classroom orchestration over there. So this kind of roles in meetings, you can do that before the meeting in the meeting options, or you can do that during the meeting with this menu over here as well. Okay, so moving on, after you update the meeting options, making sure that you have extra layers of security, the next thing you would want to do is to maybe share some materials to preview. So if you're thinking about sharing like PowerPoint or any kind of files, we would recommend you to use the class materials, which is actually a special folder dedicated for EDU. When you go to the general channel and you go to the files tab, there's going to be a class materials folder. What that means is that everything you store there by default, students won't be able to edit your files or mess up with their files with their content. So definitely you can do that. So once you have that files uploaded there, you can then share it with your class by posting a message. And when you post a message, we also recommend you that you can actually use the @mention, maybe in this case B102 Business Studies. You can just @mention so that the students will get a notification about, oh, hey, here's a kind of a new link or post about the upcoming lesson. So feel free to utilize that. So another thing that we recommend you to do is to make a test code. So when you're you can do that by going to that avatar icon on the top right, go to settings, go to devices, and then make a test code, making sure that your network bandwidth is okay, your device and camera is all set up correctly. Cool. So those are the things that you need to do before the meeting. So let's move on to at start of the meeting. So first of all, you would want to, maybe you're likely maybe presenting or giving the lecture from home, so you could actually prevent kind of like a background blur, which is available in your desktop now. So feel free to utilize that. We are also rolling out customized backgrounds for image to make it more fun. And we actually have a ton of EDU themed images that we are cooking in, and hopefully will be available for you within the next few weeks. So this is very, very exciting. You can do that, and if you want, you can ask your students to do that as well. This is for two things. One is for privacy reason. The other is make the kind of engagement more fun. When in your online class. So next, you can definitely, when at the start of the meeting, you can add mention again. This time you can use the meeting chat and just mention them, mention the class and say, hey, the class has started, and you can monitor whether there are people joining from the lobby. If your students don't have Teams accounts or for whatever reasons, they need to join, by phone, or you're inviting external speakers. Next one is what you need to do at start is, you can have chit chat with your students, but after that, definitely recommend you to mute all of the students and say, hey, I'm gonna mute all of you, and and then you can start the kind of lectures, and then when you need the kind of group discussions later on, you can ask the students to unmute themselves. So currently, if you actually see students who are being naughty and not unmuting themselves during the meeting, you can ask them to do so, to mute themselves, or you can mute them again. And if they're really not behaving, then you can give them a kind of a detention and remove them from the meeting for now. If you're not planning on sharing any content and you want your video to be front and centered, ask your students to go to, in the meetings UI, go to your name and then go to the ... and then actually click pin the video so that the students will see your video as take up the majority space of the UI. So make sure that you can do that. And this is applicable for the desktop. Cool. So definitely recommend you two other things to do. One is to start the recording. This is great for students who couldn't join at the time, or for students who wants to re-listen or review the content later on. So you can do the start recording. And you can also turn on the live captions so that the students who maybe have harder problem hearing, they can actually see the actual text transcribed right in real time. So this is available in desktop app and in English, so feel free to utilize that as well. Regarding the recording, don't worry about uploading the recording later. The recordings will be automatically uploaded to the cloud using another tool from Microsoft called Microsoft Stream, and then the link will be provided automatically. So pretty neat. Okay, so now during the meeting, what you should do to keep the classroom orchestration, as controlled but also engaging as possible. So first of all, you may want to present some content to attendees. We actually have 4 different ways that you can present. So if you're thinking about switching between multiple windows, then you can just share your entire desktop. If you're thinking about sharing just one thing, then you can just share that particular window. If you want to share, play a video, maybe from your laptop or from let's say YouTube, make sure that when you are sharing the screen, there is actually a checkbox that says include system audio. Make sure that you check on that. We definitely recommend you to test out this process end to end beforehand to make sure that everything the settings on your device is good to go. You can also share, a whiteboard or a PowerPoint in this case. So that's pretty neat. So moving forward, we have cool new features coming soon. For now, you can already see student videos, while you're, giving the lectures or you're, greetings each other, etc. So 2 things I want to kind of share with you is that, currently, we can show 4 videos at a given time. We are actually reviewing and actually working on rolling out more and more videos at a time, and we'll talk about that more in our user voice to help you understand how you can track our progress. But currently, we'll be rolling out an update soon to view 9 participants at the same time, and then we are working continuously to increase the limits even further. So back to the kind of the lecture phase, you can see the student's face, but maybe they're muted and maybe they have questions or maybe they're confused. We actually have an upcoming feature as well, which is raise hands. So imagine, you can ask your students to be like, okay, if you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself or, voice your opinion in a chat window, or maybe use this raise hand feature so that, the teacher is aware of, hey, there are students. Maybe you're talking a very complex equation and then, I don't know, 10 students in the classroom raise your hand because they are confused, that you can get that signal quickly. So the raise hand is currently already in our testing phase with a few customers, and we are working on some of the usability improvements, so it should be coming out soon as well. And definitely during the meeting, make sure that you are monitoring the chat window, or you ask your TA or your co-teacher to monitor the chat window. Teams is designed to be like a hub and to be collaborative. So encourage your students to voice your opinion through chats as well if they don't feel like interrupting you during the classroom. Cool. So right after the meeting or at the end of the meeting, what should you do? So first of all, we just released a new feature where you can signal that, hey, the meeting is now ending. So, what we recommend you to do is that, of course, you chit chat and then you say, hey, great. Let me know if you have any questions at the end of the class. And then you want to end the meeting. So what you can do here is go to that menu, and then there's the end meeting icon over here. This is available for the organizer, and what it does is that if there are any participants that are in the meeting at the moment, they will be forced to leave the meeting. Although students might be able to rejoin afterward if they feel like it, you can monitor the post in the channel because you created a channel meeting, and you can monitor that, hey, who else joins as well, so you can keep track of it and ask them to leave the classroom again. Another thing we're working on, which could help you in terms of tracking, student attendance and in the future engagement as well, is you could actually download, from the same participant pane, you could actually download kind of a report and say, hey, who actually joined this meeting and at what time, etc. And you can further analyze it, for your own use. After the meeting, definitely recommend you to utilize the post even further. So first of all, the recordings will be available. It will be, as you see from that UI, from the screenshot, it will be available to all the students by default. You can encourage them to ask any questions, or if they have any questions, you can further monitor and then answer them, in the chat as well. We think that, the meetings is not, the class is not just within the meeting. It could be, after the meeting to help to optimize student learning over here. Definitely, check the conversation responses. In terms of the access to the meeting recordings, yes, it's already, there as well. We have an extra tip for you, is that if you actually want to make that meeting, the recording link more prominent, what you could do is from that recording, you just click on the ... and you can actually make the recording as a tab. So that it will be actually showing up as a tab over here on the top. You can rename the tab to whatever you want. But then the students can easily access the access the recording over there. And with that, because it's powered by Microsoft Stream, it's free for education customers. All the recordings are uploaded to the cloud. You can have like 50 gig of storage per video, and the students can actually search the transcript with the automated closed captions as well. Pretty neat. So teachers have been asking me hey, you know what? I want to actually just create a survey, and to get students polls or to get a student feedback, or heck, I just want to do a 3-question quiz to understand whether the student learned enough from my lecture. You can definitely do so now. So when you're composing a message at the bottom over there, you can actually use different extensions. You can use Polly, a third party that we integrated to create a survey or a poll, or you can use Microsoft Forms to create a survey, quizzes, or polls as well. So this is pretty neat. Definitely recommend you to try that out. At last, you may or may not want to stop students from chatting further because the class has ended. What you could do, there are 2 ways. One is that on the post itself of that meeting, since you created it as a channel meeting, you could click on the dot and then click on edit of that post, and then you can change. Everyone can reply to you, and moderators can reply, meaning that students can no longer reply on that further. And you could also orchestrate your entire class team by going to the class to the manage team, and then going to the members, and then you can see the mute students options over here. If you don't want specific naughty student to disrupt the classroom, or you want all of the students to be muted after school hours. So feel free to utilize that as well. Okay, so last thing I want to share with you is that if you have students who doesn't have high network quality, they could join by dialing the phone number. It's part of the the meeting join information, as you can see in the screenshot. That's one way to do so, and you just need to remember to admit them from the lobby at the start of the class. And you can also maybe ask everyone, including yourself, to not share the video in that case. Or maybe you could also actually just pre-recorded your content, your lecture, share the recording, and then have a live chat discussion with your students if the bandwidth is really an issue in the neighborhood. So these are a few tips that I definitely recommend you to try that. Okay, so moving on. So that's the maturity part of the webinar, but I do want to cover a few other topics as well. So if you already have LMS in your school, like Canvas, can you still marry all the features that we mentioned, and marry the core aspect of Teams meetings? The answer is yes. Actually, a few months ago, we released a blog where directly working with a bunch of LMS tools, they can actually with the settings turned on, you can actually create a team meeting right from your LMS, and then you can then copy that meeting link and then share it maybe in a discussion in LMS, or share it in maybe your student uses G Suite, then share that link in the Google Calendar as well, whichever way you want to share it in an email or even a text message, doesn't matter. So we have a bunch of LMS being supported. So if you are using LMS, the answer is definitely yes. You can still utilize the power of meetings in Teams integrated with your LMS. So the next one is, some teachers are saying that, hey, they are struggling, and they usually, before COVID-19, they could bring, students to the museum, to the zoo, to do actual, enrich the the learning content and keep students even more engaged. So we do have a a free community called Skype in the Classroom, where there are free resources for you if you want to set up virtual field trips from museums or from parks, or you want to invite an external guest speaker or maybe a book author to your online classroom as well. So our website is currently in preview, which is skypeintheclassroom.com. So just type in skypeintheclassroom.com, and here you go. We actually just released a series of guidances for the educators and as well as for the parents, since you'll be inviting external guests. So there are some safety measurements and settings you need to consider as well. So we have all the guidance released from the website as well. So feel free to utilize that if you feel like it. Okay, so a recap about what we talked about. So let me actually just go and click on this this link. So recently we posted this blog about meetings for the classroom. So definitely recommend you to take a look if you haven't. We already have a bunch of tips and tricks here as well. We have a full-blown further meeting to actually show you step by step with the actual screenshots, the actual demo environment. So feel free to play around with that. And we actually have a bunch of features that are coming soon for that. The other thing I want to.
Hey Gordon, when's this feature coming? Hey Gordon, when's our hand raise coming? Hey Gordon, when's in the meeting? Look at that. Beautiful table. The when is right there.
Definitely, Mike. And if you want to further voice your opinion and help us shape and prioritize what are the new features that should be coming next, or you want to learn more about in detail what are the feature status, feel free to go to our use of voice, which is over here, and you can actually vote on the feature request that you feel like it, and you can further comment on that. And we are using this very seriously to help us understand, hey, what are the customer pain points here, and how can we make your life easier, and how can we prioritize that, to release it sooner, etc. Cool. So definitely go to the LMS Teams meeting April 2020 for the blog, and go to Teams EDU user voice for the user voice forum, or you can just Bing it or Google it. Okay. So due to the time, I won't go through I won't go through each line item over here. But if you're thinking about how you can share materials, how you can invite students, whether in Teams or through your LMS or with G Suite, everything is possible. And if you have any questions about keeping students safe or classroom orchestration, most of the answers are yes. And feel free to use Skype in the classroom or to voice your opinion through our user voice forum as well. So that concludes kind of my part of the webinar. Thank you so much for your time. Let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to follow me on Twitter and LinkedIn. And back to you, Mike.
Well, thank you, Mr. Prom King. That was prom-worthy material. And I screenshotted that FAQ myself. I'm going to tweet it out when this webinar is done because there's just a lot of good questions that are answered to it, though. Thanks for all the great information. So I'm going to share my screen back again. So give me just a moment as I take control, and we'll wrap up here. And we should be sharing it about now. Let me try that again. I sort of unshared myself. Do that again. There we go. So, a recap of today's updates. The Teams meeting blog that Gordon just showed you. The Alice Keeler, really nice, short and simple little YouTube playlist, 30-second to 45-second videos, quick tips. And then the Teams meetings roles. This is a great one. There were a lot of questions in the chat about how do I make it so students can't mute me or students can't remove me or I'm in control. That's all about Teams meetings roles. So you need to make sure that you're the organizer and the students are set to attendees. And that's what you do through the meetings options feature that Gordon was talking about. So that's a really important support article. A recap, we'll be posting the PowerPoint lecture notes at Saturday morning, maybe Monday morning, we'll see. This video will also be posted on the playlist, our remote learning playlist. We'll have all the other videos we've done in the past, plus this new one. If this is like the last time Gordon was on, it's going to be a best-selling YouTube video. It was very popular last time, Gordon, so we'll see if you can break your current record. And then we have the support site. If you want to get support for your school or yourself as an educator, you can file a support ticket right there, and we have support people standing by who can help you out. So coming up, we've got the E-Twins, and they're going to be talking. That's Alberto and Mario Jerez. We've also got actually Charlie Miller from Flipgrid and the Merrills on Monday, and that's not listed here, but they're going to be on Monday. We've got Social Community and SEL on the 22nd next week, and then support for families and supporting learners on the 23rd. That's going to be parent focused. So a lot of great stuff coming up next week, and then our overall schedule is at the bottom here. So with that, thank you very much. Thanks to our wonderful producer, Maryline, and then Matt Whitehead was also helping out behind the scenes answering questions. And we will hopefully see you next week.